First Alert 4 starts now.
The historic announcement that rocked the political world, President Joe Biden announcing he will not seek re-election and is stepping out of the race for President of the United States. Welcome into First Alert 4. I'm Melanie Johnson. President Biden endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee for president. His decision came amid growing pressure from many in his own party. CBS News correspondent Nellie Brand is at the White House with the latest.
President Biden has dropped his bid for re-election. In a statement, the president said in part, quote, "While it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term." His change of heart comes 1 month ahead of the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Jamie Harrison is the chair of the DNC.
I am emotional about the president's decision because this president, Joe Biden, has been a transformational president. He's been a great leader. He's a good man, a decent man who has done so much for this nation, but so much to see us as people, to value us, to fight for us.
In his statement, President Biden says he's offering his full support and endorsement of Vice President Kamala Harris to become the Democratic presidential nominee. Former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton are also backing Vice President Harris. By this weekend, more than 36 Democratic lawmakers had called for the president to exit the race following last month's debate. Delaware Senator Chris Coons, one of the president's closest allies and co-chair of the Biden-Harris campaign, called this a critical moment in American history.
This was a very difficult decision, and one that I think reflects the very best of who Joe Biden is. The challenge of seeing this moment and of recognizing what was in the best interest of the nation was a significant challenge. I still believe he could have beaten Donald Trump, but I also know that what he's done today is in the best interests of our nation.
President Biden made the decision while recovering from COVID-19 at his home in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, where voters say they support the move.
I think he made the right decision. I think it was very brave of him.
I just think it's a little shocking at this stage of the game with, 13 weeks left until an election. I think that a lot of people knew there was going to be some big issues here for a long period of time.
The DNC says in coming days, the party will undertake a transparent and orderly process to move forward as a united Democratic Party. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
New tonight, reaction pouring in from local politicians as well. Our Kimberly Donahue spoke to Democratic candidates in Missouri to get their take. Kimberly, what did they tell you?
Melanie, all this comes weeks before Missouri's primary election. President Biden's decision to withdraw from the 2024 race, a hot topic of conversation on the campaign trail for the race for Missouri's 1st congressional district. First Alert 4 caught up with Congresswoman Cori Bush, who's running for re-election. She says this is an example of Biden listening to the American people.
This is him listening to what the voters are saying, what a lot of voters, majority of voters are saying right now. And so, you know, I am glad that the president cares more about defeating Donald Trump in November. And he's doing exactly what he's been doing, which is listening to the will of the people.
Now, Biden went on to endorse Vice President Kamala Harris, praising the ease she's had working with Harris's office. We also talked to Wesley Bell, who is running against Bush in the primary. He said he appreciates Harris's prosecutorial experience and wants the Democratic process to flesh out.
Well, admittedly, I'm a fan of Vice President Harris. That said, there's a process that'll play out, and I think that we have to let that Democratic process do just that. And so I know we have the convention coming up, and we're going to come out of that convention with a nominee as well as a vice presidential candidate.
We'll have more of the candidates' reaction and that of St. Louisans coming up tonight at 10. Melanie.
Thank you so much, Kimberly, for that report. Despite those calls, a sitting president choosing not to run again after a first 4-year term has happened before. In fact, Biden is the 5th president to do so.
I shall not seek, and I will not accept the nomination of my party for another term as your president.
Lyndon Johnson was the most recent president to decline to seek re-election back in 1968. However, he did not endorse his vice president, Hubert Humphrey, until after the convention in Chicago. Other presidents who turned down running again were Polk, Buchanan, Hayes, Coolidge, and Truman. Reaction to Biden's decision is also pouring in from state and local lawmakers and leaders in Illinois. Illinois Senator Tammy Duckworth releasing her statement saying in part, quote, "No one has done more for working Americans than Joe Biden, and so many of us owe him a debt of gratitude for everything he's done to improve our country." Illinois Senator Dick Durbin also reacting, praising Biden, saying in part, quote, "Joe Biden always put country first," going on to say now the Democratic Party must unite behind a candidate who can defeat Donald Trump and keep America moving in the right direction. Representative Nikki Baczynski, the only Illinois Democrat to mention Biden's endorsement of his vice president, saying, "I thank him for his lifetime of public service and for putting our country first," as he passes the baton to Vice President Harris. All candidates calling for Democrats to unite around a candidate in order to beat President Donald Trump in November. Biden himself has endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris, but some other names are floating around, such as Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. Pritzker himself issued a statement not mentioning any potential campaign, but praised Biden and emphasizing the need for Democrats to keep Trump out of the White House. Across the country tonight, Republicans also reacting to Biden's announcement, some calling for him to leave presidency entirely. Now some Republicans are calling for Biden to also step down from that office. That includes Missouri Senator Eric Schmidt, who released a statement saying in part, quote, "If Joe Biden is not fit enough to serve as candidate after the primary, he isn't fit to serve as president now." That sentiment echoed by others, including Missouri Senator Josh Hawley on social media today. Others not calling for Biden to vacate the Oval Office, but still criticizing his administration. Coming up, we continue to hear from local political figures about the announcement that President Joe Biden will not seek re-election. We sat down with the leader of Missouri Democrats to learn what he thinks about the campaign shakeup and what he wants Missouri Democrats to know. That's after the break. We are continuing to follow breaking news in regards to President Joe Biden officially dropping out of his bid for re-election for president. We're joined now by the chair of the Missouri Democrats, Russ Carnahan. Thank you so much for sitting down with us. You have a long history of politics, including congressman for our state and also family ties to governor as well. Thank you so much for sitting down and talking with us today.
Certainly.
So the question on everyone's mind today, what is your reaction to this and what happens next after Joe Biden has officially said he's out the race?
Well, first, this is, I think, a big shout out to President Biden. I think this shows his character, that he really has put the country ahead of his own personal interest. That's what he did when he got into this race 4 years ago after the marches in Charlottesville. And so, again, big shout out to him. I think this gets us to a point where there's going to be a massive amount of energy and excitement about how this comes next. And he's passed the baton to a new generation and talk about how to build that ticket. I think that's going to create a lot of excitement, a lot of energy, and ultimately get back to really a comparison to the Trump-Vance ticket that I think is dramatic.
And final question for Democrats at home who may be nervous about their candidate for president. What are your thoughts and words to them as the convention is weeks away?
Yeah, I mean, the fact is that, you know, millions of people voted for the Biden-Harris ticket 4 years ago. 14 million Democrats went to vote in Democratic primaries earlier this year for the Biden-Harris ticket. So clearly there's energy in support behind this ticket, and it's going to shift somewhat. But I think this is going to be a continuation of that strong coalition that's won in this country and has a great record of achievement. And for Missourians, you know, we have key races here. And we've always here had to run ahead of that national ticket a little bit. And I think this is an opportunity for those races as well.
Coming up at 10, more with State Democratic Chair Russell Carnahan on if Kamala Harris is the party's best choice and his thoughts on GOP pushback. Our coverage continues with a CBS special report tonight at 6. Still ahead, we are getting the latest from Washington on President Biden's decision to drop out of the race Stay with us as we continue our breaking news coverage after the break.
We have shots fired.
Facing mounting pressure from his own party, President Joe Biden announced today on X that he is listening to those calls and has withdrawn from the 2024 presidential race. First One 4's Washington correspondent Josh Rotenberg joins us now. Josh, how did we get here and what is the timeline for these events?
Yeah, good evening, Melanie. So it has been a wild month, to say the least, but this all started back on June 27th with that CNN presidential debate, Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, in which over the course of 90 minutes, the president really struggled to get out his message over the course of that debate. And then following that, you saw mounting pressure both on Capitol Hill and from donors, ultimately calling for President Biden to step aside. And then on the other side of things, you had former President Donald Trump, who had some key wins in court with the Supreme Court and that immunity decision when it comes to criminal prosecution. And then it was just a couple weeks ago, ultimately, where you saw the attempted assassination on him in a campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. All of those things adding up against Joe Biden. And now, after meeting with advisors and meeting with party leaders and speaking with his family, he's made this decision to drop out.
Before we let you go, the president threw his full endorsement behind Kamala Harris to be the nomination for president ahead of the convention in August. What happens next in this process?
Yeah, she's not a shoo-in to be the Democratic nominee at all, but she did put her hat in the ring, saying that she looks forward to earning and winning ultimately that nomination. But with that said, she's going to have to win the very delegates that Joe Biden once won, and she's going to have to do that. She's going to have to win a majority of them at the DNC, the Democratic National Convention in Chicago next month. Now, we will see in between now and then if ultimately the party wants to move forward with just her or open things up to have an open convention, something that hasn't been held in decades. If that does, you could see current governors, members of the Biden administration, or maybe lawmakers on Capitol Hill put their name in the ring to try to be president, but we'll wait to see ultimately what happens. But now all eyes are on the DNC next month.
Josh Rotenberg, reporter from Washington, thank you so much.
I'm tracking a few isolated showers across the area, more of that in the extended forecast, but overall, lots of dry time in your work week forecast. We'll break down all the details coming up after the break.
Welcome to Tulsa. What you here for? Business.
Well, when we mentioned the possibility of isolated showers across the area today, this is what we meant. Nothing particularly organized. They're just sort of haphazardly placed across the region. The overwhelming majority of you haven't seen a drop of rain. We're dry around the metro. The closest activity I can find west of St. Louis, we've got a few showers just south of Warrenton, a few more just north of Herman. So not a whole lot out there, and that'll be the rule through the rest of the evening. We're generally just mostly cloudy to partly cloudy with a stray shower possible as temperatures fall back through the 70s. Right now in downtown, 82 degrees. We've got mostly cloudy skies. Our high temperature for the day, 82 degrees. So that is a bit below average for this time of year. The average high is 90, so 8 degrees below normal. This morning's low was 71, so the morning temperatures are getting to be a little bit warmer as the humidity creeps up. Notice the dew point at 62, so we do have a little bit of a heat index. It feels like 83 outside. So when you wake up tomorrow morning, it's going to be mostly sunny. Temperatures near 70 to start the day. It'll be a touch more humid yet again. That's the rule. Pretty much over the next several days. It just gets a little bit more humid each day. Winds very light as we start the day, and then as we move through the day, generally mostly sunny to partly cloudy skies. Just like today, I'm including a 20% chance of a little pop-up shower or thunderstorm in the afternoon. Again, they're not going to be organized, nothing particularly heavy, nothing severe. Most of you stay dry, just very spotty or isolated across the area. And that would be mainly mid-afternoon through about dinner time. Highs tomorrow will again be in the low to mid 80s. Your air quality forecast tomorrow is yellow in the moderate category. So here's how the super predictor sees this. Starting the clock early tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. I think we're dry for the morning commute. As we get to around lunchtime, perhaps starting to see some very isolated showers popping up, and then those are off and on throughout the afternoon. 5 p.m. maybe a few isolated showers here or there, but not a lot of activity out there. And then around dinner time or so, it's all gone. This is pretty much the rule almost every day this week. But here's the thing, even though we have rain chances almost every day, This is through Friday night. I mean, most of the area is going to come in less than 1/10 of an inch. Some of you won't even get a drop. And then as we get into southeastern Missouri, southern Illinois, maybe a smidge more, but it's still going to be less than 1/2 inch. So we're not talking about a whole lot of rain here. Here's my forecast for the next several days. I kind of feel a little bit like a broken record here. Temperatures do climb a little bit. Humidity comes up, but each and every day, generally mostly sunny with about a 20% chance for some afternoon and early evening pop-up showers, maybe a thunderstorm here and there. And then as of now, I think a cold front slips through and the rain slides south of St. Louis for Friday and Saturday, keeping those days dry. That could change. Stay tuned. And then another slight chance back in the forecast by next Sunday. Melanie?
Kristen, thank you. Sports is next with Tamar Sher. That's coming up after the break.
Live. This is Sports on 4.
Today in Atlanta, the Cardinals are going for their first series win of the second half after splitting yesterday's unplanned doubleheader. No score until the top second. Paul Goldschmidt snaps his 0-for-12 streak with a home run out to left field in this at-bat. Top third, Schwellenbach pitching to Alec Burleson, and he crushes this ball 435 feet under the roof. What can't this guy do offensively? Well, Michaelis gives up a homer in the bottom half. Cards with the 2-1 lead when Mars Newbar gets in on the home run action. Another solo shot makes it 3-1. Bottom half of the fourth, the defense delivered. Take a look at this play by Michael Ciani out in center field. It's becoming a regular thing. Then with Olsen up, Nolan Arenado starts the double play to end the inning. Cardinals got 3 double plays for Michaelis today. Defense to offense, top fifth. Ciani gets a base hit, then Burleson with a shot to shallow right, and Ciani would beat the throw to make it 4-1. To the 8th, it's a 4-2 ball game. Wilson Contreras goes yard for the Redbirds' 4th solo homer of the day, just inside the pole. 6-2 going into the 9th. Helsley shuts the door. Cardinals win the series and the season series at that. Tonight on Sports Sunday, our Cardinals insider Katie Wu joins us to break down the victory.
Pick up some ground perhaps on
to the final round of the Open Championship in Scotland, Xander Schauffele had a day here on 11. He gets himself out of trouble. A great shot out of the rough sets him up for birdie, climbs to 6 under, just 1 shot back of the leader. Then on the 13th, Schauffele completes another birdie, taking over as leader at 7 under. Remember, before this year, Schauffele had never won a major. Well, today, finishing at 9 under, he won his 2nd major this year.
Winning the first one helped me a lot today on the back 9. I had some feeling of calmness come through, and it was very helpful on what has been one of the hardest back 9s I've ever played in a tournament. So it's it's a dream come true to win 2 majors in 1 year. Is, it took me forever just to win 1, and to have 2 now is something else.
In less than a month, the Bommarito Automotive Group 500 returns to Worldwide Technology Raceway. Back-to-back Indy 500 champion Joseph Newgarden will also make his return to the track. He's the first driver in 22 years to win 2 consecutive Indy 500 races. He's also found success in the Bommarito 500, winning 4 times overall at the track. He won back-to-back in 2021 and in 2022 at Worldwide Technology Raceway.
I love the track. It's never bad to win a race, and certainly there has been very good to us. It's a fun crowd to win in front of. It's a great race to win. It's always pretty intense in the way that you have to win the race. I think it requires, an intensity because of the racing style, because it's a short oval. Everything happens and flows very quickly. A little bit different to what you get at the 500. It's a bit more drawn out. But this place is high intensity, very fun to win it.
You can watch the full conversation with Joseph Newgarden and find out how to get tickets for this year's race at Worldwide Technology Raceway tonight on Sports Sunday. Melanie.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for joining us for First Alert 4 at 5:30. We'll see you back here at 10 o'clock with a lot more news. Have a great night.